I did I dum did I do. Oh, oh, I did I dum did I do. Oh, oh, Baruchi nafshi et Adonai. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Baruchi nafshi et Adonai. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much to Josh. Trying to figure out the screen share and the full screen and all that stuff. So let me get to there we go. So thanks, Josh, and thank you to Will, and thank you to IJS. And I'm so grateful that we can all be together here. I recently heard of a suggestion by Rebbe Nachman of Bratslav to people who were about to lead others in prayer. Paraphrasing as one about to lead others in meditation, he suggests offering a prayer that the community become one, inviting God's blessing. So for all of us here, whether for the first time, for the 100th time, the 300th time, we are together. We are one. Thank you, Holy One, for this gift of community. On this first day of Sivan, Rosh Chodesh, as we enter the final week of counting the Omer, let us begin with breath, slowing down, lengthening our breath in and out. Letting go of whatever we were doing just a moment ago. We begin this fourth book of the Torah, the Midbar Sinai, in the desert, the wilderness, the Midbar. We are told to count. This time it's to take a census, and knowing that each of us counts, each of us is important. The word for wilderness or desert is Midbar, the Hebrew letters Mem, Dalet, Bet, Resh. It is a liminal place, a place of unknowing, a place of questioning, a place of receiving. We are coming to Sinai. We are coming to accept the Torah. In addition to the counting of people for the census, as many of us are aware, we are also in this seventh and last week of counting the Omer, the week of Malchut, Shekhinah. Rabbi Yael Levi talks about this final week, and especially this day of Tiferet Sheb Malchut Shekhinah, as being balance within divine presence, a time of integration, a time when we are called to open our hands and our hearts, a time when we're invited to wonder about the gifts we can bring to this world, a time to ask ourselves, how can I best be of service? Our country and our world are suffering. So how can we open our hearts to think about this? How can we help? How can we feel the tiferet, the beauty and balance of this day? And how can we feel the malchut or shekhinah, the divine presence of this week? IJS has helped us on this journey through the 7 lower sfirot, the divine attributes, by association with the midot, the musar qualities. We have felt them in our bodies, our minds, in our souls. Chesed, loving connection, balanced with gevurah, wise boundaries. flowing into Tiferet, beauty, love, humility, balance, our sphira for this day. Our next pair of sphirot, Netzach, eternity or alacrity, balanced with Hod, splendor, humility, gratitude, Hodaya, acceptance. The flow continues into Yesod, our foundation based in Tzedek, righteousness. And finally, we arrive at this week, Malchut Shekhinah, God's manifestation in this world, the action, the doing. All of the Sfirot flow into this last one, and each of the Sfirot is in relationship and connected to all the others. The midah we associate with Malchut Shekhinah is Shmirat Hadibur, guarding our words. Perhaps this is the best way to bring peace into this world, taking care of our speech. By taking care with our speech, dibur, we notice the Hebrew letters, dalet, beit, resh. Sound familiar? The same letters that we see in midbar, wilderness. For those who know the desert, you know it's not a place of noise or extensive speech, although we do hear airplanes above. It is more a place of silence, of quiet. And maybe it's in this quiet we take before speech that gives us the experience and wisdom for Shmirat Hadibur. So I invite you to settle into your place and imagine we are there at Sinai with hundreds of thousands of others. We don't know exactly what will happen, and we hope that we have prepared ourselves. We are all together, and we are ready. Still yourself. Think shalva, serenity, quietude. Let your posture be alert and relaxed. Allow your breathing to slow and your body to melt, your eyes closed or your gaze gentled. You are in the desert and it is quiet there. You are in the wilderness, Bamidbar. What will happen next? Be ready to receive. Be ready to listen. Perhaps you will hear a message in the silence. Perhaps you will feel love in the silence. Perhaps you will find a way to guard your speech because of this silence. As Rabbi Levi says, we sit in each moment and call forth divine light to guide us, to show us the way. Know that my singing will bring us back after the quiet, back together to our community. I did I dum did I do. Oh, and we sit. feel free to keep your eyes closed. Or every time I have joined you in these years, 5781, 5782, it's been for the first portion of each book of the Torah. Bereshit, Shmot, Vayikra, Bamidbar today. And I hope to join you again for Devarim. The reason that I wanted to join you for this was because I've been studying from the Psalms. And in the Psalms, there are also 5 books. And I wanted to put into conversation something from my meditation on the first week and something from the Psalm of that book. And so before I started to study the Psalms, I didn't even know that the 150 Psalms were divided into 5 books. But now I do, and I've felt delight in bringing these words together. So today we have begun the 4th book of the Torah, or this week, and our words come from the 4th book of Psalms, specifically Psalm 104, and I was very lucky because this is also the Psalm for Rosh Chodesh. So Will, if you want to screen share a little bit, this is at the very bottom of the 2 pages. So it starts off, Baruchi nafshi et Adonai, Adonai Elohai gadalta me'od, hod vehadar lavashta. Praise Adonai, O my being. Adonai, my God, you are grand indeed. You are clothed in surpassing splendor, wrapping yourself in light like a cloak, unwrapping the heavens like a curtain of smoke, laying the beams of your upper chambers in the waters, turning clouds into your chariot, walking about on the wings of the wind, making the winds your messengers. May we, on this Rosh Chodesh Sivan, Tiferet Shebe Malchut Shechina, may we feel enwrapped in God's presence. May we feel holiness in the wind, in the clouds, in the waters, in the light of the heavens, in the quiet, and in the words we choose to share. Baruchi nafshi et Adonai. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Baruchi nafshi et Adonai. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Wishing you all Rosh Chodesh or Chodesh Tov and Chag Sameach for Shavuot. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise, so much. We'll continue with a chance to offer reflections and ask questions in just a minute. And before we do that, I want to give anyone who is saying Kaddish a chance to do so and to share, if you'd like, the names of anyone you are remembering or holding in your tefillah today in the chat, if you'd like to do that. And as always, you're welcome to unmute yourself. We will put the text of Kaddish up on the screen. And we'll be able to join together. Okay. Gadal,
Yitgadal v'yitchadash shemei Rabba
Alma
v'yamlik malchuto v'yechon b'yomechon
Yomechon,
v'yitekel galal zman kadosh shemei Rabbi mevarach alam u'lalam yomaya
Shmei Rabba Mevorach,
v'yishtabach v'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh
Barach
dar
Vishtabach,
v'yitkal shemei
Shema V'yitnaseh,
v'yechu
Shemomim,
Pushpekata v'nechama v'amiran v'alema v'imru amen.
Shiraha,
Shalom Rabba Mishemaya Inu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Yeh Shlama Rabba
Shalom v'imroma
Mishmaya,
u'beracha ya'aseh shalom Aleinu v'al
Shalom
kol
Bimromo,
Yisrael v'al kol Yoshvei Tevel
Shalom
v'imru
Bimromo,
amen.
Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, Kol Yoshvei Tevel V'imru amen.
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 All right. So thank you again. I want to invite anyone who wishes to stay around. And if you are leaving us, wish you a tzeitchem l'shalom and come back to us soon. Go in peace and come back in peace. And Louise, thank you so much. It was great for you to point out that you're always here during the first, the opening parsha of the book. I hadn't put that together. So thank you.
It's been, this is now the 9th time that I've done this because it's been, this is the second year.
Second cycle,
So,
yeah.
Second
Wow.
cycle. And it's been nice because as I've gone back and looked at which Psalms I chose for last year for Bamidbar, for example, it wasn't Rosh Chodesh then. And I chose another Psalm earlier in, I think it was Psalm 90, which is the beginning of Book 4. And truly, I did not know that the Book of Psalms was divided into 5 pieces, 5 parts. And even though it doesn't match up exactly, it gives me a chance to review, a number of Psalms and then choose a verse that speaks to me for that at that time. And so it was just beshert that it was included the Rosh Chodesh Psalm.
Yeah.
Also, the Psalm you hear in there the wrapping yourself in light. It's for putting on the talit as well. That and just so beautiful. So my granddaughter has her bat mitzvah in 1 month on Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. So the melody that I sang was Nigun Zoe. So I created it for her and created it for the blessing for studying Torah, V'ha'arevna. But it worked for Baruchi Nafshi and it works for Adon Olam. So we're going to have a service at the wall, Robinson's Arch in Jerusalem, singing Nigun Zoe.
Wow, amazing.
She'll be chanting for the Rosh Chodesh reading.
Yeah. And a lot of people, including my bar mitzvah parsha this week, also, but Bamidbar, I think there's a lot of my brothers too.
Yeah.
So it's a popular time. The weather's good. Right?
Yeah, and quite a beautiful haftarah, the haftarah from Hosea.
Yeah. I'd love to just, and folks, if you want to share questions or, anything that came up for you during the set, please do in the chat. We always love to get your questions and your observations here. It's something that occurs to me. You talked about the counting, right? That this is the opening parsha of opening Torah portion of the book of Numbers, which of course gets its name from the Hebrew, not Bamidbar, but from Sefer Pikudim, right? It's referred to in the Midrash as a book of countings because we have a couple of censuses that take place and a lot of other sort of counting, right, that happens. And this shift that happens in this book that's always struck me of going from the personal to the larger sort of corporate, right? Like the big move of one of the big moves of Sefer Bamidbar is preparing this people from being these wanderers in the wilderness to being people who are going to be able to go in and conquer and govern a land. And there's a certain effacement, a certain kind of loss of individuality right? The becoming numbers that is both that's necessary in that and that is also, difficult. And I wonder if you want to, I just want to invite you to reflect on that of yeah, how your own practice might inform that of like, both honoring my personal sort of sense of uniqueness and individuality and being part of this larger communities, societies. We have a social security number, we have those are encounters we have. So I wonder if there's any way that you hold that sort of in your, as you're reflecting on this parsha.
Hmm. Well, I think one of the things I loved about Yael Levy's writing was this idea of um, individuality and that each individual is important. And I think that if we don't feel that each individual is important, if we don't count each individual, then we can't have um, a community or a world that is respectful of the other, that thinks about what they say, shmirat dibur, that, if you're not respecting the individuality of each person, um, then that that person feels other. They feel, that they don't belong, and then that they don't count. And so I think that um, feeling that we're all in it together. I know we've said that a lot, being all in it together here. But we certainly learned that with the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and we learned that how things affect all of us. The whole butterfly concept of something, a butterfly does something in Mexico, floats its wings in Mexico, and it changes something in Boston, Massachusetts. Certainly have felt sort of connections like that from all over the world. Um, I used to think, there's the expression that used to be that the U.S. was a melting pot. But I then heard later the idea of a salad bowl, that everything is unique, but it's all together comfortable. Um, and so I guess that's the trade-off, the balance, the
Mm-hmm.
tiferet
Mm-hmm.
um, of that, individual, but the community being so important.
Mm-hmm.
So,
There's
um,
I think it's related, somewhat, or a segue into a question that Valerie here has. What could you say about the large group of Yehudim Jews not knowing where they were going and the silences they experienced in the desert, right? The irony of this word midbar, which also, if you reconfigured, is midaber, speaking, and yet is
exactly.
thought of as a silent, quiet place. It's a beautiful question.
Yeah, I loved that. I guess actually at the Hebrew College graduation and ordination this past weekend, and um, one of the speakers brought up that connection of midbar, midaber, and dibur, and it just clicked for me. Um, I think that it's so important to 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 feel that not knowing, to feel that sort of uh, um, liminal space, the sort of openness of, not knowing where you're going. Um, I know I felt that in transitions in my life, in my career, in my home life, in my with you know marriage, having children, grandchildren. The not knowing is holy and scary, and sometimes it's good to allow yourself to feel that fear. Certainly, I'm sure the Israelites felt that fear in the desert, um, not really knowing where they were going. Um,
Mm,
but I think because they were all together, I mean, there's that balance again. You know, People can be scared by themselves, but if you're scared of something, or you're sad about something, or you're, um, not knowing what to do about something, to feel a community around you, um, and it can be a community of friends, it can be a community of your congregation, community of people that you play cards with, or that you go for walks with.
Mm.
But that gives us some safety isn't quite the right word, but some um, contentment or some, yeah, I guess safety is not a bad word.
Mm.
Um, so
Mm.
that you feel and enclosed in people's love, people's concern. Certainly, we feel that when someone dies. Um, a friend just died this past week, and I went to Shiva last night, um, and just having all the people around. It's not a religious community, but everybody, this woman was a big center of our community here, and people just kept walking in. And, some people weren't Jewish, some people were Jewish. One person said, "Well, I don't know what to say," and I said, "Well, traditionally, you don't say anything until the mourner speaks.
Mm.
You wait, and just your silence with the mourners is enough."
Mm.
So I've sort of went in various
Oh,
tangents, but
yeah.
that's what this is all
That's how
about.
we roll here.
Exactly.
There was a question here from Teddy that says, what is Shmirat Hadibur for peace? I'm going to try to understand this question. Listening more to quiet and sounds of nature, like wilderness, like the Midbar, and choosing, is it, I guess, and choosing what words to share for the sake of peace. It's so, it's so interesting to me, right, that we get the language of, we'll get in a couple of weeks, right, in Birkat Kohanim, the language of the blessing.
That's my Torah portion.
He goes, so
My bat mitzvah.
that the priests would offer, or instructed to offer, which of course is a blessing for peace via same lecha shalom, right? That's the last word, and that takes place. Where does that come? That comes in Sefer Bamidbar. So it's there is something perhaps about this place. And just a reminder, in case this didn't come through in the translation, the reason we're talking so much about the wilderness is because this week's Torah portion is Bamidbar. It's the opening of the book of Numbers. The book and the Parsha's name are Bamidbar, in the wilderness. So, but I wonder if you want to just think about this Shmirat HaDibur and peace and the relationship with the wilderness.
Yeah. I think the idea of Shmirat HaDibur, the guarding of one's speech and peace, is, for me, related to if you take care with your speech, then you can have peace between human beings. And I'm not saying never to criticize or never to, have difficult discussions, but somehow being centered and quiet inside, at least for me, helps helps me to speak from a holy place, feeling God's presence with me when I'm having a difficult conversation. And so that feels, even if it's difficult, it feels more peaceful. It feels, that's sort of the small piece. Um, the bigger piece, I think, world leaders, if they thought about what they said um, a little bit more, it would be a lot better. This world would be a lot better if people thought about what they did with a bigger view to how it affects the whole world instead of just their little, um, neck of the woods. I
Mm-hmm.
think this world would be a better place.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I haven't spent a lot of time in the desert. I've been to Israel, many times, but I never, you know, camped in the desert or, did a extended time in the desert. So I'm not as familiar personally with the sort of quiet and peacefulness, but I've had many friends speak about their experience, either in a kibbutz down near Eilat or just experience on the desert or the desert in the United States. You know, a friend who may still be on, he talked about doing, meditating in the desert in southwest of this country.
Mm-hmm.
And so just um, just very powerful experience, I think. And being all together, again, going back to the Israelites in Sinai, um, has that opportunity too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and that this is the famous midrash one of the famous midrashim in this parsha, right, is that why do they have to go? Why do we have to go through the wilderness? Because you have to make yourself hefker, ownerless, like the wilderness, in order to really, in order to acquire Torah. The irony being, one has to make oneself ownerless in order to, acquire, as it were, Torah. I know that Erin Smokler wrote about that in her Devar Torah this week, or her text study essay. So
Wow.
that's that process of going through, and it's all, and it is. The calendar works out that we always read Bamidbar just before Shavuot, right? It's also, it lines up, it's intentional. We had lots of opportunities in the last, recently to have double parshas, and we didn't. And so there is something about, on the way to Shavuot, we need to first sort of be Bamidbar, as it were. So there's something
And
powerful.
I think that's true for individuals too, as you're making big decisions, to take some quiet and to feel like and when you're in that liminal space of not knowing whether you're going to take a job or whether you're going to retire or whether you're going to travel or whether you're going to get married to a person, to take some quiet and really sit with it and be Bamidbar, to feel that the importance and the greatness, the immensity of that decision is, I think, very important.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they don't, either they don't make the time or they don't have the time. But I think even just sitting for the shortest amount of time can be helpful for feeling
Well, we'll be here again tomorrow for half
that.
an hour if you want to
Great.
sit some more. Thank you, Louise, so much for this practice today, for leading us.
Pleasure.
And thank you to everybody for participating and for your questions and your comments. And we will see you back here tomorrow, whenever you can join us at 12:30 Eastern. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks to Will Priest, as usual, for helping
Yes.
us out on
Thanks,
this.
Will.